What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Knives of the Round Table. And this time we're going to be talking about the top 10 knives in my collection. So this list is the one that I take most seriously because it is with the knife ranking that I make recommendations to friends or family. Then if I'm going to recommend something, where somebody's going to spend their money, that's where I take it the most seriously. So I try to be as objective as I can, but in determining a knife ranking, there's a fair amount of subjectivity. So without further ado, let's get started. The first knife that we're going to talk about is the ZTO562. And so that's coming in at number 10, and we're gonna give it the seat of ground. The top 10 knives are gonna be the knives of the round table. So the seat of the ground goes to the ZTO562. And this knife, I consider it the point of diminishing returns. I could make the argument that there's knives that are less expensive than this, but most of them will compromise on something, whether it's blade steel or materials or fit and finish or even where they're made. This is made in the United States. It's designed by Rickender, one of the top knife makers and designers in the world. It's made by ZT with really good fit and finish. The action is pretty good. It's not outstanding. It's decent. But I think it's a gateway knife. I think if I were to try and convince somebody to get into the knife hobby and collecting, I think this is a really good piece where you'd want to start. Coming in at number 9, we have the Quiet Carry Drift. And the Quiet Carry Drift is going to get the seat of vetiver. And this one, it's an outstanding knife. It's a little bit smaller, but the size is really good. It still allows, I wear size L gloves, and it still allows for a full 4-finger purchase, even if you don't choke up. The milling on the titanium is great, but Quiet Carry, their real call to excellence, or their, what sets them apart, is that they use all rust-proof materials. So they use Vanax for the steel of the blade. They use LC200N for the lock bar insert. They use titanium, obviously. So nothing in this knife will rust. So this is the one that finds itself into my pocket whenever I'm going to the beach or a lake or something where I expect to get wet. And the design, the lines of it is just outstanding. They have several models. The Waypoint is one of them. But in reality, I think the lines on the drift are far better than. I'm gonna set this. Let's keep them in order. Coming in at number 8 and taking the seat of Gareth is the Lyon Ma Warrior 2 version 3. I don't know the Warrior 1. I don't know the version 1 and 2 of the Warrior 2. But this version, it's Riyadh made, and it is excellent. It is excellent. It's got this Japanese tanto shape to it. It's got this compound grind, and I think Riyadh makes one of the best, if not the best, compound grinds in the world. The design is really good. It has a very thin profile this way, and the blade comes to a really nice, because it's of this hollow that you see here. It comes into a really fine edge, and I think that the design of Lyon Ma it's really good. I really like this shield pivot that you see here. Those are really nice, even even with the fact that he's using just a regular Torx screw. He implemented a design on the pivot, and I enjoy that very, very much. I do hate the thing that brings it lower into the ranking is the clip. It comes to this point that is sharp, and it scratches me. I don't like my knives scratching me. But this is a really good knife, and it comes in at number 8. Coming in at number 7, and using the seat of Gowan, you see another Riyadh made knife, and this is the Chavez 229 Ultramar Redención. And look, I am an engineer. I work in an office. I am the adjective that most likely describes me as a geek, and I am nowhere near badass enough to carry that. And yet I do, because this knife is so good. Again, Riyadh makes an outstanding compound grind, and the design is really good. It fits my hand very well. It cuts like a dream. It's a little bit larger, and it's a little bit heavier. Now, heft is never a problem for me. In fact, I think I prefer my knives to have a little more weight to them, this feeling of solidity. I think I enjoy that more than anything. And what I've seen is that this large flat, it's got this chamfer edges, so it's really still pretty ergonomic for the boxier shape. But this flat titanium, it lends itself really well to anodizing, or a lot of people engrave stuff or mill stuff in it, and I've seen the engraving of Star Wars scenes and stuff like that. And I would highly recommend the Riyadh made Chavez Ultramar Redención. This is the seat of Gowan. Now, coming in at number 6, we have the Koenig Arius. And the Koenig Arius is a lot of people's favorite knife, and it's a grail knife for a lot of people, and for good reason. The action is really good. Deploying it's a dream. It closes. I think the closing is really good. I like when they drop shut like that, but I don't like the uncontrolled, finger guillotine. I think I enjoy more when they do a controlled drop shut. The lines are really nice, and the only thing that I personally don't like, it's the opposite of what I feel with the Chavez Ultramar Redención, and that is that they've done, I don't know if you can tell, they've done so much internal milling on this that the titanium feels hollow. And it's a feeling that I get when I deploy it. It kind of resonates, it vibrates, and I know it costs more. It's harder to mill a scale than to not mill a scale. But I think I would enjoy this knife much better if they wouldn't mill the inside. I think it's my only gripe with the knife. I think the blade is ground really thin. It's so nice. The lines are beautiful. The ergonomics are really good. But I think I would enjoy it a little bit better if there was not so much internal milling. And I know that goes against the grain. Most people like more internal milling. So that is knife number 6. And he has the seat of Boris Deganis. And now we get into my top 5. Okay, these are the top 5 knives in my collection, and number 5 is the 520 by Custom Knife Factory. And this is a new knife to me. It was a pre-order that I got in, and we got delivery for this knife, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago maybe, and it quickly became one of my favorites. Custom Knife Factory just has outstanding fit and finish. They make a great knife. But this is the first time that I actually enjoy. I have a front flipper. I have several, but the size of this knife makes it so that it is so easy to front flip that I'm really enjoying it. The blade, it's very neutral. Okay, it's just a really flat ground drop point, but it cuts really well. And as you can see, the action is really good. I really like the pattern, the color pattern that they did with the bronze and the carbon fiber. And even though it has like this very angular, cuts or faces, it's a very ergonomic knife. It felt, this groove right here fits these two fingers perfectly, and it's just a joy to use and carry. So coming in the seat of Percival, you have the 520 from Custom Knife Factory. Number 4, and occupying the seat of Galahad, is the Curtis F3. The Curtis F3 was my first custom knife. Dave Curtis is a custom knife maker out of Texas, I believe, and his knives, they sport probably the largest flipper tab that you'll ever see. For comparison, I mean, take a look at the flipper tab of the Koenig areas. But the deployment action on a Curtis is the best deployment action out of all of my knives. Out of all the knives that you see here, or that you'll see, the deployment action on the Curtis is the best. And I really enjoy the ergonomics and the lines. Again, this is a compound grind, although for my compound grinds, I really enjoy more when they show the grind lines going in different direction, like Riyadh does on this face and that face. I enjoy that better than when it's kind of stone washed like this, even though it's crisp, okay, it's not buffed out. But I enjoy more when you have the grind lines. The Curtis, I enjoy the pivot quite a bit. It's an oversized pivot that acts as the over travel stop on that side. They're outstandingly made, and for a custom knife, I would argue that it is tremendous value. You can usually get these secondary market about probably $600-700, and for a custom knife, that is really good, and they're built really well. And I always like to say that the action, the deployment, that sound whenever Wolverine deploys his claws on the comic books that it says snicked, that's that sound. Okay, the snicked is the sound that the Curtis knife makes when it deploys. So that occupies the seat of Galahad at number 4. Now, number 3, occupying the seat of Tristan, we have the Rickender XM18. And in this case, I have one of the crown jewels of my collection. This is the Rickender XM18, but it is a custom. It is in the Skinner blade. Now, the Skinner grind, it's one of Rickender's grinds, but it is probably one of the most polarizing. You either love the Skinner grind or you hate it. Now, for me, I love it, and I decided to search for a custom in that grind. But the XM18, regardless of whether it's custom or the production version, I would still put it at number 3, occupying the seat of Tristan. And it is because I think that the quality of Rickender is incredible. I think he's one of the best knife makers, one of the best knife designers, and you can get everything under the sun. You can get about 7 or 8 different grinds on the blade. You have spear points, you have skinners, you have slicers, you have full-edged spears, spantos, sparrows, you have, Warncliffes, all of the grinds you can find in a Rickender knife. You can find a variety of scales, and this one, because it's a crown jewel of my collection, it's even sporting steel flame Crusader clip with a steel flame Crusader filler tab. If you're a Hinder fan, you know that these things are really, really hard to find on top of the custom knife. But like I said, in this, I'm just showcasing the custom, but even the production version would occupy the third spot on my list. And as a person who owns, 4 or 5 XM18s, I can tell you that they're all excellent. If you haven't experienced the tri-way pivot system, it's not on this specific knife, it's on all of his Gen 6s. I would highly recommend. It's probably the best pivot system out there. Coming in at number 2 and occupying Lancelot's seat, it is the CKF Evo 2.0. And I shouldn't have to explain why this knife is on this spot. The design, I think it's John Sorensen from Rotten Design in collaboration with Custom Knife Factory. Like I said, with the 520, I think Custom Knife Factory makes an outstanding knife. I think they make one of the most high quality production knives. And this one, the design is just so unique. If you take a look at all of these knives, there's some similarities, like within these two or those two, you have some similarities. This one looks like a rare bird compared to all of those. You don't have a lot of similarities. The blade comes to the thinnest edge I've ever seen on a knife. It's even, I even worry sometimes about that blade because it's so thin. But the grind is beautiful. It's this large hollow, with this sheep's foot blade. I just think it's different from anything else. I think the action is incredible, even though it is a finger guillotine. But I think it's one of the best made knives, one of the most unique knives, and I'm so glad that this is part of my collection. And finally, occupying the seat of Arthur, the one that I believe is the best knife in my collection, and that is the SHIRAGO F3 NS. The SHIRAGO F3 NS is what I would consider a great value. Now, they're expensive knives, okay? No doubt about it. It's $800-900 depending on where you buy it, or if you got it in the secondary market. But I would make the argument that it is outstanding value because you get a lot of bang for your buck. I think you get a lot of things that you would find on a custom knife, and I have a couple here. The fit and finish and the quality is just outstanding, and the materials, if I told you that this was an M390 blade liner lock with carbon fiber, you can probably find a lot of knives with that spec sheet, right? You can find a lot of knives with that spec sheet. In fact, this is a knife with that spec sheet, or close to it, right? This is a liner lock, this is a frame lock. But what I'm trying to say is that even though you say that carbon fiber, this carbon fiber and that carbon fiber are not made equal, okay? This is a much higher quality carbon fiber. It's milled in that direction. I don't know if you can tell. It has this divots here and here, and it has this micro texturing on the handle that fits your hand incredibly well. It's economically, it's a dream to hold. It's got this jimping that is not aggressive at all, and the action is the best out of all my knives. I think deploying the Curtis is better, but the Curtis won't drop, or not easily. I have to kind of coax it down. The Shiro, it's not quite as excellent in deployment, although it's really, really good. But dropping has that controlled drop that I enjoy so much. So if I were to tell somebody to put a Grail knife on their list, and you can get that knife right there, I would put the SHIRAGO F3 NS on it. So guys, there you have it. That's Arthur, Lancelot, Tristan, Galahad, Percival, Boris Daganis, Gawain, Gareth, Bedivere, and Grant. And what's gonna happen is that I will make an update of my top 10 list whenever one of these knives of the round table is replaced. If you know, sometime I get you know, a knife that kind of replaces one, then I will make an updated top 10 video. Now, sometimes, just to give you an idea, a knife might just be replaced. Like, you know, maybe I get a better front flipper and maybe this one gets replaced. It doesn't necessarily mean that this one will always go. It'll just mean that there's a place in my collection for all of these, right? Like if I get a better knife that is good for outdoor non-rusting things, then this one might be replaced, right? So it's not for sure that the one that will always go is number 10. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, and if you think that I've earned it, like, subscribe, and until next time I see you, take care.